Our first story deals with a subculture of heavy metal music that some feel is sending a dangerous message to your kids.
The forces of evil on the dark side of devil rock.
And I want to talk tonight about the devil and demons and witches and wizards.
And we just mix it up with hardcore and aggression and come out with something we think's an original sound.
Loud, fast, heavy, you know.
Well, what do you got?
What do you got?
You're listening to Riff Worship, the podcast that attempts to answer the age-old question, what makes a riff? Why do we care about the riffs? Talking about our favorite albums with riffs. I'm one of your hosts, Austin Paulson. With me, as always, are Justin Swindle and my convulsing good buddy, Dylan Adams. Dylan, you
Do we need to call
right?
you an ambulance?
He's doing the Bernie.
I need Dr. Rock here right now.
Probably not an ambulance, just a lift. Call this man a lift. Get him in the lift. Take him to the hospital.
Just toss him in. Just kick me out of the door and leave me on the front stoop.
Can't afford ambulances anymore.
No.
Time to a sled. Send the time to. I'm gonna tie
Send the
Dylan into a dog and just smack it on the ass.
Not my dog.
Oscar. Yes, it's actually
ain't
an
happening.
Oscar.
That dog would just circle around the fucking neighborhood and then lay over because he's tired.
Balls dragging behind him.
Couple anchors.
I got a
Sparks flying off.
I love that this now people who listen to this,
Devolved.
well, the balls have entered the chat. The balls have entered the Riff Worship universe.
Is there a bouncing ball just art or a piece of ad we can get for Zoom or something, like the thumbs up, just bouncing balls?
Oh, I thought it was like a sing-along thing.
Oh my god.
Oscar's balls are cannon now, though.
It's true.
Cannon
God.
balls.
Cannonballs.
The amount of cats that have just taken him right to the head. Bah!
Swindle, how are you?
Didn't even answer.
I'm doing great.
I didn't even get an answer. The balls took main stage.
They always do. You can't avoid them.
Don't look at him directly in the eye.
You turn to stone.
Poor Cody.
Oh,
How are you doing, Dylan?
Man, been pretty good. Monday night shows or something. Man, being up at 6:00 in the morning and then like hitting 9:30 and Nails is kicking wide open wounds. You're like, all right, Todd, I love this, but man, bed. Gotta go.
Gotta hit the wrap it up box. Wrap that shit up, B.
Yeah, that seemed like a fun show though.
Ooh.
I missed. I kind of, as I was editing the last episode, I had mentioned, I'm like, oh, I hope I get to see this, and I didn't get to see it, and I feel so ashamed. But I'm glad my friends got to go. That was pretty cool. Matt Graham, shout out Matt Graham.
Matt Graham was there.
In the past week, Sumac and Kowloon Walled City announced that they're doing a southern tour that Dylan, I, and Matt Graham are going to go to.
Yep.
And
Gonna be great.
the same day and the day before it, Coalesce is playing in Chicago.
Crazy.
So
Yeah.
Austin, if you can't go to the Coalesce show, I mistakenly somehow bought 2 tickets to that Sumac show.
Damn. Do I made the joke in our group chat that I'm like, oh, just like drive the 6 hours to. Do I instead drive the 6 hours to Nashville
for the third time in 2 months?
Oh, it's gonna be rough, but
Yeah. Wow.
an album like this might get me through it as I try to transition into the main topic of discussion. I love this band. I love this record. I don't actually know who or why it was shown to me, but I am very glad that it was. It had to have been around the time that it came out, actually. It was pretty early on into me like moving into Bowling Green and meeting you guys, but I just don't remember a time when it hasn't been in my life, and I often go back to it. I enjoy it. It's full of melodicism. The vocals are great. It's got some black metal edge. It's got some hardcore edge. Oathbreaker, Eros, Anteros from 2013. Fucking great record. But I would like to know, first and foremost, Dylan or Swindle, whoever wants to start. Do you have any sort of relationship with this band? Had you heard of this record before? If not, what'd you think?
I think you may, in the early days of us hanging out, you may have played like an Oathbreaker video on random nights when we would be drinking, but I'm not even sure which Oathbreaker video it would have been. But otherwise, I don't have any prior knowledge of Oathbreaker.
So I've been familiar with the band for many years. To be honest, I've always missed listening to them. It was one of those bands that I went, I need to listen to this. I need to get around to it. And in the year that this record came out, like streaming wasn't really a thing. So I was like still illegally downloading things, and like I'd load them up on like an iPod that I had at that point. And some things would get lost, or I'd forget about it, or I'd load it up and like I just wouldn't pay attention, because like there was a period of time in like from like 2013 to 2016ish, like I just didn't pay attention to a ton of new stuff. Like I would, every so often there'd be something that of course I would dive into, but something happened. I don't know if my brain I got wet brain or something. Something definitely happened and I just ignored a lot of stuff. So it's been playing a lot of like, recovery work in the last few years. But I know about this band because you posted them all the time. I know about them via their Deathwish connection, because generally Deathwish is putting out good stuff. They're kind of like Relapse. They're always putting something out that's at least interesting and pretty good. I mean, there's a quality to it. I'm really bummed that I didn't find out about this band earlier on, because it does have a lot of the aspects of like hardcore that I really like. It has a lot of aspects of kind of post-metal that I like, aspects of some of the blackened edge that I like. I kind of walked into this expecting it to be more blackened in a sense, and sometimes that can be boring. I didn't want it just to sound like, a bunch of people just playing like this weird amalgamation this weird amalgamation of black metal meets hardcore, when in reality it sounds like punk kids playing like black metal parts, which is kind of cool and a lot more like off the cuff, because there's some stuff in here that's really fucking wild.
I like that you said that, because there is likely a very good reason for that. Or I shouldn't say likely, there is a very good reason for that. And it kind of, takes from the band's upbringing, maybe like where they were before this band started, the kinds of music that was kind of around in underground circles in Belgium, where this band is from, more specifically Ghent, East Flanders, Belgium. They formed in 2008, mid 2008. 3 members of this band, Gilles. I'm gonna preface this right out of the gate. Gonna be a lot of Dutch names, a lot of names that I'm probably gonna fuck up. I am sorry for my ignorant American pronunciation. Can't even speak my own language right. But I apologize in advance. It's probably gonna be bad, so just bear with me. So 3 future members of Oathbreaker were in a Belgian hardcore band called No Recess. Gilles, Caro, and Leonard. They were in this band for, I don't believe Leonard was actually on an official release of this band. He is credited with being in this band from all the research I did on like Discogs and stuff, but they were in this hardcore band. There's a quote here that says, "We started to change stylistically, and when we parted ways with our drummer, we thought the time was right to start over with a clean slate and form a new band with Evo, who is the drummer of Oathbreaker." So a lot of these members, or many of these members, were into a lot of the hardcore that was coming up in Belgium at the time, specifically. And I quote, like, this infamous scene is what it would be like described as, the infamous H8000 scene. 8000 basically is a reference to the area of Belgium that this was taking place in. But you essentially have like, they would call it edge metal, and it's like metalcore, maybe some like old school deathcore bands that originated from West Flanders, and a lot of straight edge, like vegan members. Actually, Leonard was in quite a few of these bands, Firestone and Lyre, kind of taking place from like 89 to 1999. They kind of mention a few of these bands like Congress that like sparked their interest in metallic hardcore. But, here's another quote from Evo that said, "We first started out, we were mainly influenced by bands such as Rise and Fall," which I'll get into in a little bit, Cursed, as
Makes
well
sense.
as like Blacklisted. So I see a lot of that crossover as well. I am not like super well versed in this scene, but there is a documentary available on YouTube that you can just stream, titled the H8000 documentary, Anger and Distortion. It was directed by Hans Verbecke, who was in bands like Blindfold, Liar, Rise Above. He also wrote a book on this whole scene titled The Story of the H8000 Hardcore Scene, 1977 to 1999. So if you're interested in that, I think I'm definitely going to check it out just to get a little bit more familiar with it. But just as context, that's kind of where a lot of these members came up and were influenced by underground and like heavier music, I would say. So you have those 4 members. They released their debut EP in 2008. It is like this joint release between a couple labels, Holy Shit Records, and which is like this Ghent-based label that also worked with the previous band, No Recess, and 30 Days of Night Records, which is based in England. So they did that. I should also mention that since this band is from Belgium, they're definitely going to have some ties to other bands, including Leonard's other band, Amun Ra, which, Dylan, I don't know if you want to just like take the floor. How would you explain or describe Amun Ra to someone who has never listened to that band before?
I mean, to simply describe it, it's just really, really bleak post metal, right? But there's much more to it. If to kind of put it in perspective with like how much respect that band has developed and how bleak and dark that band is. There's an interview with Steve Von Till and Scott Kelly of Neurosis from many years ago. And Neurosis used to have these great like projection screens and stuff behind them. And they actually said, we stopped doing that because Amun Ra do it so much better. They're like, we can't compete. Like there's nothing there. Amun Ra is really bleak. It's really open. It's really violent in soundscape and scope. There's aspects of it that are spacey, the whole nine. I mean, there's a wrestler that uses an Amun Ra track as his intro music, that being AEW's Malachi Black.
With that too, there's kind of like this collective as well.
Church of Ra.
Church of Ra.
Yep.
It features Amun Ra as well as like a bunch of other bands, including Oathbreaker, Hessian, the Black Heart Rebellion, Pieces of Quiet, Hive Destruction, and like a ton of other bands. A lot of these bands share members with each other. But yeah, it's just kind of like this big group of musicians that kind of create under this like big hub of Church of Ra. So because of that, and because of that connection with Leonard, who I think actually joined this band at around the same time as starting this band, 2008. They did a split together in 2011. It's kind of like this, I think it's titled Brethren Bound by Blood split series. So Amun Ra basically did like splits with several of the Church of Ra bands, including the Black Heart Rebellion, Hive Destruction, Oathbreaker, and Hessian. And so it would be like one side is Amun Ra, the other is the other band. So you have Amun Ra doing Shapeless Pain, which is like a 10-minute track. And then Oathbreaker did Agartha, I think that's how you pronounce it, which would ultimately end up on the record we're about to talk about today. And there's actually a really fucking cool clip. I don't know if like the Church of Ra has like a space that is just dedicated to them doing like showcase like performance and stuff, but there's literally a video. It's titled Church of Ra, Oathbreaker versus Hessian, where they're set up on either sides of each other, like just playing at each other, basically. Like the one band would do the song from their split, and then the other band would do their split. And then there's like all these people around them. Really fucking cool video. Check that out. In that same year as that split, they actually do release their first record, Maelstrom, debut full length, July 5th, 2011. This was written over a 2-year period, and it kind of, based on my research, made it sound like if they had not have recorded this, basically the band wouldn't happen. It's like kind of a now or never type of thing. It was like a very slow process in order to get this made. I think before this, their like writing sessions were very sporadic. They weren't getting together maybe as much, if I interpreted that correctly. But It was like, all right, we got to do this now, or this band's not going to go. So they do it, and it's fantastic. I think they were able to do their first music video through this, but this is also a Deathwish Inc. released record as well. And I think that is mainly potentially because of their connection with Rise and Fall, which is another Belgian-based band. They're kind of like maybe the older brother type of band. They've been in the scene a while. They respected the members of that band. They'd played with them in like several other groups as well. Rise and Fall also signed to Deathwish in like 2005. They'd worked with Kurt Ballou previously. They, toured with this band a ton. And this band actually does feature a future member of Oathbreaker as well. So there's just like so many of these connections, but I think it would probably be very easy for them to be like, oh, hey, like this is a band that we tour with all the time that we're friends with. Like somehow maybe it like the EP or something before like just fell in the lap of like, Jacob Bannon or, Kurt Ballou or whoever. But it's a cool release. It sounds a little bit more hardcore leaning than I think this record does, but I would also definitely recommend checking it out.
Could you tell me who that album was mastered by?
Of course, Swindle. It's our good friend Alan Douches.
That is the way we've always pronounced that name.
Never said it any differently. It's always been that way, for sure. Our good friend Alan. Alan, if you're listening, love you, buddy.
And don't listen to any episode before this one.
Don't ever do it. Yeah. Mastered at West Side Music in New Windsor, New York. You got Kurt Ballou mixing the record. I believe there were some engineers based in Belgium who recorded the record as well. I think I read it was called Jet Studio, which is like one of the oldest studios in Belgium. And it had like this huge live room that was like converted from like an old theater that they recorded in. And also they recorded in bedrooms. So there's a good mix of spaces, I guess. So this record got him a little bit of buzz. I'm sure also being on Deathwish certainly helped as well. They had toured Europe several times at this point, Spain, Portugal, Germany, doing some dates with Rise and Fall. I believe they take a break for a little bit of time because Leonard, of course, being in Amon Ra, going on to tour and maybe record with that band as well. They toured for the first time in America in the summer of 2012. They were asked to perform at This Is Hardcore Fest that year, but they were like, well, we're not just going to like spend all the money to come over here for one date. We're like kind of a new band, got to pay bills, got to eat, right? So Joe Hardcore McKay and the good people at Deathwish Inc. Helped them book some dates around the festival, and they were able to kind of tour, through the United States. And actually, there's a really good Hate 5-6 video from the This Is Hardcore Festival as well.
I can imagine that you wouldn't want to travel from the middle of Europe to Philly and then just go right back to Europe.
Take me to the Fresh Prince basketball court.
One of our many great sites in Philadelphia. So, talked about some of the early releases. We talked about the history of this band. We've arrived at our record, our sophomore record, Eros Anteros, released August 20th of 2013, again through Deathwish Inc. It seems like they had a lot of like direct, maybe this speaks more to like Jake running his label. It's like this band being, on another side of the planet, had like kind of direct contact with Jake. They say like he's the one we have like the most interaction with. So he like gives a shit. He wants he likes the band, I would imagine. Like I'm sure that guy probably only works with bands that he really enjoys or respects. But the title I thought was interesting. I don't know. I've done some research. I may not get everything right. I don't know exactly all about the lyrics and dissecting them, but the title itself, Eros Anteros. Eros means love, desire in Greek, I think. And it's the Greek god of love and sex. And Anteros is the brother of Eros in Greek mythology. It means counter love, the Greek god of requited love or like love returned. There's a quote that I found on the Deathwish site that said, Oathbreaker story of love and the anti-love, life and death, and the growth they have experienced through these trials. They kind of say as well, kind of describing this record, the debut is more of a compilation of songs we had written over a really long period of time, almost 3 years. With Eros, we saw it more as a whole that has like a certain dynamic. And I think you can definitely tell like everything feeds into one another.
It feels like and sounds like a fully realized project, and I think that goes for a lot of bands with maybe their debut release. Like it's usually a collection of the best songs that they've played up to that point or have written up to that point. Whereas maybe the sophomore release, usually speaking, is a little bit more, the band's fine-tuned, it's well-oiled, they've toured, yada, yada, yada. They've become more comfortable riding with each other and everything seems to fall into place.
Personally, I only like every band's demo.
That's why all the hardcore bands that break up after their demo. That's like because there's nothing good can happen.
Right. By the time a band puts out their first full length, they're just passe. They're just right. They're just fucking writing Freebird.
Fuck. Wasn't Freebird on the debut album?
I fucking
do not know.
Swindle would know.
Freebird was on the first Leonard Skinner record.
That's pretty wild. Speaking of Leonard Skinner, this album cover is great. I'm 2 for 2 on transitions today, I think, personally. Again, I'm probably just not gonna butcher these names. They all seem like Belgian artists, photographers that take this like very mysterious and very striking album cover. It, from what I understand, is a maypole. I believe I've seen it in movies like, The Wicker Man, if that kind of paints a picture for you. But basically a tall wooden pole that they use for various European folk festivals. And they might dance around the pole. Caro had mentioned that the maypole is basically the best symbol to describe this album for us. The maypole that's on the record is actually one we built ourselves. We made it in a field somewhere near our hometown, somewhere in the woods. We basically found a huge tree and dragged it along on the open fields, painted it with our bare hands, put the flags on it, and put it up. There was a lot of input of ourselves into constructing that thing, which makes it more personal. And so it's kind of like this symbol for change, going from one season to another. That's kind of what it was to us, and you'll find it in the lyrics as well. So kind of like a rebirth, death, I don't know, cycle of life type of thing. It seems like this record's about.
It's the world-eating snake, the Ouroboros kind of thing. Yep, snake eating its tail, right? I don't know much about Belgian or Dutch or any sort of like of the historical lineages of pieces such as this, but I know just that it's a very eye-catching piece of art. It's a very eye-catching cover, and that's usually, if it catches my eye with the cover, I think I'm like you guys, probably going to give it a listen. I'm probably going to dive into it, and then also seeing how it's being portrayed is this almost hardcore meets blackened influence. Really ties it in as well, because this album probably came out when bands like Black Breath and which is a complete other end of like hardcore, right? But you had a lot of bands that were starting to blend extreme styles with hardcore a little bit more, and that's not to say that hadn't been done for years. And then being signed to Deathwish, already giving a bit of credibility to the band for sure, and knowing that their sophomore release was being pushed even further already adds a mystique to this album. Because the band being part of this collective that they've been a part of as well adds another air of mystery to it, which makes it even cooler in my book.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if I had to guess, I've been shared a lot of records. I'm sure anyone can relate that like you probably get thrown a lot of shit in your lap, and you might not connect with it all the time. But like, I know for a fact that like when I think about this record, that image, that artwork instantly comes in my head. It is like such a perfect, combination of imagery and then the sound you get on this record. And speaking of sound, we also have another production by Kurt Ballou. Resume a mile fucking long. Recorded and mixed at God City Studios in Salem, Massachusetts, March 2013. Took him like 10 days to kind of do the whole thing. You also have another engineer, audio engineer, Brad Boatwright doing the mastering. Again, another resume that is a mile long. Go to the Metallum and just get lost because you're going to be there for a little bit.
Yeah, Brad's got a laundry list.
So with that said, like, you know, with those guys at the production, how do you feel about like the sound of this record? Was there anything you noticed? Was there an overall theme that kind of carried through as far as like what you were hearing in your headphones?
I thought it sounded good. You could hear the bass, like pick up the bass sound. I could, which, and I mean, we talk about it all the time. And a lot of heavy music, the bass just gets lost, especially if it has distortion on it.
Yep.
And I think the guitar is not overtly distorted, which works well because the guitar like it's kind of dense. Like, if there were a lot of, it's kind of like Ampere, Will Killingsworth's guitar playing. Like, if you put a lot of distortion on it, you're not going to hear all of the like slight changes in the chords or the movements. So I think the sound of the guitar worked well.
Absolutely. And it kind of shows the kind of yin and yang of Leonard's kind of guitar sounds in his two primary bands, whereas like Amun Ra is a very dense, very like overly saturated, very gain heavy sound, whereas this is a little cleaner. And you can hear every individual note, in which most of his guitar playing on this record is very arpeggiated.
Yes.
He's picking notes out of the chord. That's a very black metal thing. He's just not doing as much of the double picking, although that's on here as well. Production wise on this, you know, what I like about Kurt's producing is that it's very organic, although he uses modern techniques. Like, yes, he does use Pro Tools, but he's using it just to get the most crisp sound out of something. You know, he knows how bands should sound because he's been around for as long as he has, 30 plus years between playing and recording. And he knows how to mix a band really well. Like, you can hear every instrument on here. There's not one instrument louder than the other. You know, everything's pretty even in the mix. The guitars are really loud, as they should be, but they're not, you know, overly bearing of anything. You can hear and feel the bass frequency in there. Yes, there are dense points on this record where like the bass kind of gets buried in, but you kind of want that, right? You want it, especially if it's a distorted like P bass or something like that. You want it to hold that fundamental. And that's what the bass sound does on this record. The drums, I will say, maybe are a little lower in the mix, just from my ear. Like, there's points you definitely hear it. It's not like it's just buried under everything, but it's a little bit lower. The vocals are very present in the mix, as they should be. There's also some great layering of vocals and different sounding vocals on different tracks. What I will say is, to my ear, this is a pretty dry production. There's a lot of guitar layers, but not a ton of like, there's not synths on it. There's not keyboards. It's definitely the musicians, the four members of the band, and just what they're playing. I mean, that's not to say that, you know, they didn't go through, there's 4 guitar tracks, or there's multiple guitar tracks, or there's multiple vocal tracks, things like that. But there's not a lot of time spent going, oh, we need to have Moog on this track. We need to do this. Like, you can hear everything you're getting on the record.
Well, speaking of the record, shall we get into it? Get into this bad boy? The opening track, kind of sort of an instrumental track, Beal Dennis, which is Dutch for portrait. Thoughts of our opening kind of introduction to this record?
I think it sets the tone pretty well. I also I noted specifically that at the very beginning of the track, there's like a bass frequency, and it has that sound like when you're driving down the street with only one window open, and it does that like,
oh, I'd murder somebody.
Like it has that fucking sound.
Now I got to go back and hear that. God. The opening of this is really cool because it's very orchestral sounding. I'm sure that's not what it is, but it's probably just feedback. But it sounds very orchestral, almost like a band warming up their bows and everything. And then you get these great kind of guitar layers that are really ominous kicking into it with arpeggiations and distorted parts and all of these different things kind of coming in. I counted at least 4 tracks of guitar doing different things. That's not including like the layers. As Swindle said, really sets the theme, really sets the motif for the record of what you're going to get. I really like the vocals that come in at the tail end. I can't tell if they're reversed.
From what I understand, I don't think they're reversed. I think she's just speaking in Dutch. It's a poem by Maurice Maeterlinck, who is a Belgian poet, playwright, who is like born late 1800s in the area. He won like a Nobel Peace Prize for literature not long after. A lot of his themes deal with basically kind of what this album is talking about: death, rebirth, the meaning of life, all that stuff. So yeah, I couldn't understand it because it is in Dutch, and I couldn't find a direct citation of what poem it was referring to. But it's cool. It's like, yeah, kind of just mixed like right under all of like the instrumentation and like kind of the atmosphere and textures that are going on. Definitely sets a great vibe. And I love when the guitars kick in, you kind of get this like droning, like distortion with some of the like slow kind of, I would say melodic kind of like lead parts in this song. And then it just builds and builds until it can't build anymore. And really just punches into our like true opening song of No Rest for the Weary, which again, if I think about this record, aside from the artwork, I think about this track. I think this is like a staple track for the band. It is like maybe a signature song for the record, but it is like full throttle, like just full steam ahead. It is so fast. You know, you got your like black metal elements. There's blast beats as well. And then, you know, we could talk about like it transitions into this like, again, this like meandering, very melodic riff that he is just so prone to be doing all over this record.
What I like about this album is those are the style riffs that you get on it. That's kind of Leonard's thing on this record. What I really like about this album too is a lot of the songs are structured kind of traditionally, right? Like you can pick out a verse, a chorus, like everything, a bridge, and it kind of segues out to that. But they're repeating riffs. They're not overly repeating them. Like the main riff in this track, you know, is repeated 2 more times in whole, and then it kicks in. Like this is a short track. It's less than 3.5 minutes long. Starts out really like blasting. It has this kind of cascading guitar sound to it. Maybe something you'd hear on like a Wolves in the Throne Room album with that style of it. It's the whole track itself has this great kind of blending of those styles. Like and I like a lot of heavier bands really do that with their opening track. They want to go, here's the introduction of what you're going to hear. This is the blending of everything you're going to hear on this record, but you still may hear a little bit more. Great opening track. There are massive blendings of black metal, hardcore all over this record, that very melodic kind of, as you said, meandering guitar riff that kicks in. You know, the vocals right out the gate are fantastic. They're very shrieky, very raspy to me, that I really like, which attributes more to maybe just has some characteristics of some black metal vocals to that, but it's definitely more in the hardcore vein for sure. Again, great fucking opening track. There's a big kind of doomy sounding bridge in this song that I like a lot. And there's also these great kind of double picked arpeggiated parts towards the end of it as well. That's kind of reminiscent to those Norwegian black metal guitar riffs.
As we've kind of mentioned on previous episodes, I think this is definitely an album that probably sounds good wherever you listen to it, but I think you should definitely check it out with headphones because there's just so many layers going on. It is like, as we've kind of hit on a lot, it's a very dense record. And so, I mean, you might get like a main riff that's kind of like mixed right in front, but then there's like all of these other things that are kind of right under in the left or the right ear. Like it might be like, here's the hooky part, but then here's like another like weird lead melodic line that's happening over here or something like that. So again, there's just really a lot to dissect and get into. And, you know, I think on another record where you put it on, you're like, oh, what the fuck is Leonard doing over here with a little ditty over there? That's pretty cool. And what you said about Carl's vocals too, like they're just so emotional
Mhm.
and raw, and you are just gonna feel like punch in the gut. Like every time you can just feel like this anguish every time she is delivering the lyrics and different parts.
This just kind of hit me. You and I are familiar with what I'm about to mention, but their vocals make me think of the vocals on the Noctool record from a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, very much in the same vein.
That
Yeah,
black
just-
metal kind of raw
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And
very
that-
much.
It's kind of like that was a record, very kind of lo-fi
Yep.
album, and this sounds like a very natural kind of performance.
And this is, now thinking about it, like Svalbard has a lot of similarities to something like this.
Sure. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, that kind of blackened, melodic kind of hardcore type of thing, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure. Definitely. This is a very forward moving album in a lot of ways. Like this whole first half of the record, I feel like it's just kind of one after the other. Especially, this song fading right into our next track, Upheaval. This to me feels like a house show song, just because it's like the vocals are up front, you kind of get that shout part, and then there's like this, again with the layers, you get one side, one layer kind of revving it up, and then there's like all the feedback on the other side. It is perfect. This is, speaking of, getting away from guitars for a minute, Evo's drums fucking going crazy on this fucking song, with like, he does a lot of these like drum roll kind of different transitional parts. Yeah.
I took note. There was a note later in the album that I took that like he does a lot of rolls with cymbal hits in the middle of his rolls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And he did that in the previous song also.
That's a very Ben Collier thing. Like that's that kind of just really quick, just Igor Cavalera does a lot of that shit too, as well. The riff that sticks out to me in this track in particular, like kind of circling back to guitars, is kicks in at around 46 seconds in. It's like the main riff of the song. There's something very rock and roll about that riff. There's a very much like a boogie to it. Like I don't know, like if post-metal guys are really into Motorhead, like that's what it kind of feels like. There's a vibe to it.
Kind of a different thing. I just kind of remembered. So I used to do this radio show where I would connect random bands together, right, through liner notes. And a later band that Leonard did, I saw this. I think it was actually an interview that was in Decibel magazine, where he said one of his like biggest influences was The Cure. Like loves the fucking Cure.
Yeah. And
so I get maybe more of like the spacier kind of like elements to that, but also just like definitely a different. I don't know. When I listen to this album and I listen to the guitar playing, because it's certainly like, I think that's the thing that obviously sticks out the most to me. This is a guitar record. He's just got a very unique approach to playing that by the time I got to this record, I had just never heard before. You listen to that riff, an all-time riff for this record. I mean, he is like all over the fucking fretboard. And I'm like, I would often sit here, and I still do. I'm like, how the fuck are you doing that? Like, how are you doing? And then, once you've listened to that part, he has these like other great kind of elements as well. All those like descending riffs that are often follow this main riff are so great. It's like that descending kind of pick part is just so wonderful.
There's definitely some stuff on this track too that harkens back to their hardcore, straight edge, maybe even youth crew upbringing. Like there's some like kind of old school hardcore parts on this track, like these really quick chord changes kind of in the center of the track. There's these, again, great moody kind of brooding turnaround / bridge in this song. There's a lot more post-metal influence coming in at the back end of the song. Prior to seeing that they were influenced by Cursed, like in my notes, I have this could have been a Cursed track.
There is a spot where like there's a pause and there may have been like feedback, but there's like 3 kick drum hits and the vocalist is screaming. I fucking love that.
The ending even too, it's I said breakdown, but I mean it's not like your traditional kind of just slowing it down a little bit. It's got like these like harmonized like kind of layered guitar parts and like the alternate picking. But again, we continue to move at like a blistering pace into our next song. As I look into the abyss, it's like 2.5 minutes. You know, I don't know if it's completely accurate because I feel like this is a little bit more mixed, but I do maybe to kind of hint on like the hardcore punk aspect of this band, maybe like a Black Flag My War, kind of where it's like the first half is like super fucking fast and then the back half slow. This is a little bit more mixed up. There's definitely faster parts on the back end, but it starts to it's varied, I guess, is really what I was thinking.
The A side of this record is definitely really quick. Really, really quick. I mean, and you see like this track, it's just a short, kind of quick track. This track really makes sense as to why they were on Deathwish. To me, like there's a certain vibe and sound to a lot of the Deathwish acts, especially during this era, that kind of 2009 to like 2015. There were kind of a lot of vibes that were very similar and very forward-thinking hardcore bands. This track is really, really cool. I like the fact that it is almost a companion piece to the track that follows it as well. I noticed that as soon as I saw the titles, I went, okay, this makes complete sense. Again, some more of those great arpeggiated kind of chord riffs that he uses on here to kind of segue away from guitars. There's a great kind of drum roll, single stroke kind of thing about 1.5 minutes into here that's just, single strokes. I grew up when there's 2-stroke engines. And it's this single stroke thing right into this blasting that just ends the track out on this kind of cascading black metal part.
This song and like the jangly riff and Upheaval remind me of Axe to Fall and All We Love We Leave Behind era Converge so fucking much. And the next song reminds me of the song Hell to Pay from Jane Doe because it's of the bass line.
Absolutely. See, Swindle brought up Jane Doe. My note said, because there's a track on Axe to Fall that has a very drum and bass kind of thing going on as well. I was like, oh yeah, this is 100% like that. And just how locked in the drums and bass are into this. That's very admirable. I like that. That shows that it's a band that has spent a lot of time with each other to lock in like that. Like they're able to play off of each other probably without even thinking about it. Yeah,
it's definitely tighter. I mean, I'm sure had been playing like a shit ton by the time this album came out. I will say, like, I feel like a lot of the rhythm section for the most part by this point is like kind of more foundational. Like, I will say Evo is like doing some crazy shit, but I really do just like that fucking, straight ahead kind of hardcore thing. The bass seems to be kind of following some of the guitar parts as well, but this is where like, okay, we're kind of over here. It's more of like, again, a textural thing or like a feeling or like a jam where, the bass is grooving with Leonard playing some kind of like melodic chords and notes as well. Kind of the first time that really sticks out to me.
Using those top 2 strings. We don't know anything about those. Oh, who needs those?
Guitars have more than 3 strings?
They have more than... God, what are we talking about? It's just 1 string. It's just the big one.
I like mine loose.
The Minutemen. This is a great track. For the longer 2 tracks on this record, this is my favorite by far. I like how the last one is, but this one's my favorite. It's got great harmonies on it, which this album doesn't have a ton of guitar harmonies on it, but they're very sparing with where they are, and they're very subtle. There's a lot of great... There's another drum pause on this track as well that I really like. That's just 2 kicks, and then it's feedback 2 kicks, and then it goes on to the next part, which I was like, oh, it kind of splits the track in half. Like it's like the beginning of the second half of the track almost. You've got a lot of repetition going on in the song. Parts are returning, the whole nine. There's these great kind of meaty riffs throughout it as well, showing the different styles of guitar playing that Leonard does. These very open sounding, jangly and high frequency sounds, along with these big, like lower register, like thick riffs as well. I do want to highlight the fact that there's kind of a post-rock aspect at around 4 minutes and 15 seconds in that I was listening to this tonight before we hopped on, and I was just kind of looking out my window, and like the weather's kind of gray down here right now. I went, oh, it's fucking fitting. Like, yeah, it's a very winter, like fall album. And then like I kind of got lost in it for a minute, but at 6 minutes in, Caro's screams that come in, like just completely like brought me back to reality.
There's a lot of those like lulls into false senses of security where the band just like fucking explodes like right back in. Those never end. But I will say like some of those like harder parts, I want to note that this is like a song where it's the first time we really get like cleaner vocals on the record, which is not like unheard of for this band. If you listen to the first record, they kind of do it. They do it a little bit more on this record, and then I think as they transition to the third record, it's a lot more prevalent. But I love the cleans on this record. I think they are like a good kind of like night and day type of thing that she does. But I do like when they switch to the anguished vocals and you kind of get to that like heavier thing. He's using like I think a chorus pedal where there's like a part where it's like the harder part, he's kind of like using the higher strings as like kind of like accent parts of the riffs. Mm-hmm. And then he does this like single harmonic note that is just like, ooh, baby, Leonard, what are you doing, buddy? Yeah. Oh my God.
It's emphasizing. It's kind of like those just hitting the two open high strings to kind of emphasize certain things is such a really cool, like easy noise thing to do that it adds a lot of impact to like heavier riffs.
But and you know, I think the part you're talking about with kind of like the cleaner solo guitar type part, there's a lot of like lush, like kind of cavernous reverb, especially on her vocals too.
Yes.
And you know, it sounds like she is in a hole or like in the abyss where it's like, hey, I'm singing down here. Like when it's pure, it's harder to endure or whatever. Right. Like just like, yeah, like looking up at you. It's great. I like the song. It kind of, you know, explodes back into the like regular Oathbreaker part, and then kind of holds on a jam to kind of take the song out.
So that jam, kind of at the 6 minute point, it all kind of starts there. And there's a point where like Evo is playing and he's doing a lot of off time snare stuff, which again, we've talked about, like I fucking love. I know Swindle likes it as well. But there's a point he's playing the same part and then the snare disappears. And it's all just like tom and cymbals at that point. And it's like, God, okay. Like we're doing this, aren't we? Like we're going through and we're just we're just here to confuse poor Dylan's bald ass head. Like just, this is great. Anything that can kind of keep me guessing, I really enjoy. And the blending of different styles and influences on this album are so cool because as I said at the beginning of this, I didn't want it just to be like a blackened hardcore record. I wanted more creativity, and luckily with this record we got it.
Then we get into my favorite fucking song on the album. This is my favorite track. If this is a band that just was like, hey, we wrote a song and it was this one, amazing. Like so great. I love the way that Carl's vocals just like started out and like the rest of the band just kind of like the air gets sucked back into the room where it's just everybody follows in after. One of my favorite riffs on the whole record. There's just like all of these different parts that like stick in my head. Like I could hum this whole part, and then again all those like alternate picking kind of like meandering like chromatic style riffs that Leonard's playing. So fun. It's 2.5 minutes of just like the catchiest shit that you've ever heard.
There's, again, the opening riff of this track. I mean, it starts out as just like chaotic hardcore. Like it just starts out right out the gate. The main riff or the big riff kind of kicks in about like, like 20 or so seconds in. And there's these great kind of arpeggiated parts that he's doing. My favorite riff on the record is on this track. Although it's not the same as yours, I believe. It's like a minute and change in, and it's this very fast double picking riff.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I heard that and I went, that's fucking Dissection. Like that is that band. I went, okay, all right, I get it. You know, again, this band's really good with blending this intense, chaotic music with like melodic hardcore, which is so cool. And it doesn't just sound like it's pandering on here. It doesn't sound like they're forcing it. It sounds very natural with all their influences. And a track like this makes me think of like early era Touche Amore, like parting the sea between brightness and me, kind of like that era, or To the Beat of a Dead Horse. I got that with like the really quick tracks. I was like, oh, okay. Just the way the drums are paced and everything. It's like, oh, okay, this is really fucking cool. And it made me really think of like one of the first shows I went to with Swindle was a Touche Amore show
Really?
at Rocket Town. Yep. Narwhal, Touche Amore, I believe.
Yeah.
Shut up.
That was back
Noah.
when was it in the basement Rocket
No,
Town, or was it when
this
they
was-
moved to the other
It was a white building.
I think that was when Narwhal was a 3-piece.
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow. See,
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know
They
they
had a
were.
bassist.
Old man,
Whoa, what
look
are
at
they-
my life.
What do they think they're doing? Having a bass.
Not even going to acknowledge that. I think we're good here.
Swindle, any thoughts on this track?
I thought it was a great change of pace after like kind of the sparseness and like halftime of the Abyss stares back, and then they just kick right into like the second half of the record essentially.
Yeah.
Yep. Splits the album up in a very good fashion, very kind of old school with the sequencing of the album, like ends on a ballad, right? Ends on a slow, really doomy track, and then bam,
Bam.
right in the kisser.
We're gonna try to get through this one. Offer on Delegta. Dutch for Sacrifice to the Void.
Oh, yeah.
It's much slower than many songs on this record, and it's it almost like kind of a change in vibe from some of those like very meandering riffs, and it's just a it's got a lot of weight behind it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I am really glad you mentioned the word vibe, because my notes are like it's only blackened in vibe. It's not pulling a ton of stuff from there. The opening of this track is very kind of Kurt Ballou inspired guitar stylings. This might be the closest to like an Amon Ra track, in my opinion. This is very Neurosis inspired in a couple sections of this song. It's very post metal with just how it's paced. There's these pounding, almost tribal drums throughout the entire track.
The drums sound fucking
Yep.
huge on the song.
Very, very trance-like going on here. There are these great whispered vocals throughout it as well.
I know outside of like Carl singing, there are some vocals on here that I could not find who. I don't know if it's a member of the band or if it's someone else. I just couldn't place that. But there are a couple moments on this back half where that happens, and it definitely adds to it. You also mentioned Kurt. I don't want to forget this as well. Not only did Kurt also, produce and like do all the production for this record, but he adds some like additional. He's credited with some additional guitar parts on this. The first and the last song on this record.
Oh, okay, cool.
Just to throw that out there.
Yeah, probably just add some thickness to it, like it needs it. But you've got these great kind of sludge and doom guitar parts kicking in at like toward the back half of it.
Bends.
And yes, a lot of them. Again, there's just these great, they're balancing all the really fast tracks you got on the first half of this record with these kind of more lumbering, more just weighty kind of tracks that you're getting on the back half of the record. Longer song lengths as well.
Yeah.
You might as well call them Radiohead because of all the bends that they
I hate
play.
you. I was gonna make a scuba diving joke.
There's just it's a lot more. It's kind of like that repetition. It's just kind of like the same kind of riff, maybe a couple different variations of that. And it ends with this like killing, chugging riff at the very back half with like loads of feedback and some maybe like again some of that chorus effect on the guitar on some of those layers. But Agartha, I looked up Agartha just to see if that meant anything, because I don't know, but apparently it is an ancient kingdom that is said to be located on the inner surface of the earth, and it's mentioned in like various pieces of literature over the past like 100 few years, I guess. But thoughts?
This song sounds like "Milk It" by Nirvana.
Damn.
Yes.
I sent that to our chat and no one said anything.
I missed it
literally
completely.
sent it and it was completely ignored.
Probably just missed it, but like, yes, 100%. The vocal phrase.
Right, yes. The vocals in like the verse part is like the vocals for Milk It is like, I am my own pet virus.
Yeah.
I get to pet and name her. And that's the exact same like vocal placement that's in this song. But also kind of like the just the dynamics of the song, like very loud, soft, very like loud, soft, loud, soft, loud, soft.
It's got a hell of a noisy fucking intro in it.
Sure does. With the drums and the bass lock in at the beginning of that, it's just like,
yeah,
like a submit mixer.
Damn, I'll have to listen back to that. I'm sorry I missed your message.
Yeah, like every time I've listened to this track over the last couple weeks, I went, God, that is 100% this. Like that is purely. And it may be a nod, it may not be. This group of people were probably the right age group when that album came out. So it's one of those like musical influences that's probably just there. And it's like, oh, this sounds like it fits. And then like, it's like almost, you could probably match it up. Like it's great. It's so fucking cool.
If there is a Nirvana song for this band to like reference, it probably like that song is so noisy, and like the Nirvana song is so noisy and weird anyway, so that would be a perfect song to like throw a reference to, I guess.
We get from like that vibe, that Nirvana vibe from the last song, into Nomads, which definitely the fastest song on the album. And I think I know exactly where Dylan's going to go with this. So go ahead, Dylan.
Gonna retcon. I mentioned the dissection riff I heard earlier as being my favorite track or favorite riff on the album. My favorite riff on this record is the riff in this song. That is a Bay Area riff if I've ever fucking heard it. Yeah. And it almost like, it's like Bay Area meets New York hardcore. Like it's all right there. It's fast. They use it very creatively throughout the track too, because they bring it back, I think, a total of 3 times. But on the 3rd time, it modulates like a full step higher, and it adds like a different kind of feel to it, but it just gets faster. And it's a fucking great riff, and I'm glad they used it as much as they did in the song.
Yeah. He does like some stuff on this where technique wise that you don't typically hear like throughout the rest of the record. Some of the palm muting stuff that he's doing, like more of a even traditional solo, I guess, on this song as well.
It's a fucking ripping solo on this track.
Which, like all of the fucking licks and riffs on this record are just as melodic and fucking solo-y as you could probably get. But this is just like a classic, like something you would have heard in 84, like coming out of the Bay Area, 100%. And then it goes like into this kind of like primitive sounding like drum part. And there's like these group chants to like end out the song, and like a fuzzy bass drone too, kind of at the tail end of the song. Very, very cool.
This very well could be my favorite track on the record, just because of that riff alone and how it's used. But those big kind of sustained chords that are played under the solo and right before the solo, like those are those big Morbid Angel octaves to me. Those big kind of low droning octaves that get used. I wasn't expecting a track like this on this record.
Right.
Like it's a ripper. And like, not to say that this band didn't have it in them, but just to have it on an album sequence like this is crazy, because it still fits in with the theme of the record. Like it doesn't seem just like, oh, here's a thrash track. But this thing's fucking stellar. And it kicks right into the final track on the record, which is a pummeling fucking track and a journey of all.
Fucking 11 and a half minutes. Claire Obscure.
Yep.
We start this song how we started the record, with some of
Literally.
that atmosphere and the texture, right?
Yep.
And the guitar riff is from literally the first song. Like the main
I didn't
riff that
catch
gets
that.
played over and over again is from the very first song.
There you go. Yeah, just very clean, lush reverb effects on this, clean vocals. I mean, you spend a lot of this track in this kind of like meditative, cathartic state. You just got decimated for like 30 fucking minutes. So then you kind of get some good breathing room. It kind of sounds like folky, honestly fitting with like the cover of the album, some of the themes that they're talking about. You would hear this probably like I thought maybe like even Murker sort of song.
Hell yeah, absolutely. I'm surprised we haven't made a reference to their work earlier. That makes complete sense. And listening to this with just the opening, and I'm bummed I didn't notice the connection with the first track, but it just shows like I was just deep into the trenches on this record. When I heard the clean intro, I started going back like, what does this feel like? What does this sound like? And I can't remember which track it is, but it's on Cattle Decapitation's Monolith of Inhumanity. I don't remember if it's the track The Monolith or if it's the beginning of Kingdom of Tyrants.
Ooh.
That has this I think it's Kingdom of Tyrants that has this very slow, like just depraved kind of dark and depressing intro to it. And it feels like that with the way this track builds up, because it builds for at least 8 of the 11 minutes of this track. And it's just adding layer on top of layer on top of layer. First, it's like additional guitar tracks. Then it's vocals come in. Then a couple more guitar tracks come in. Then the drums are really buried in, and you can kind of hear them beginning to pound. And then like this crescendo hits at like 8 minutes in, and it's just huge.
Very cinematic, kind of climactic way to end the record. I will say I did want to mention the title of the song, Clair Obscure, is like French, I think. It's Clair means light, obscure means shadow. Could be I think it's like meant to I think it's like a phrase to describe like the interplay between light and dark on the moon. So again, maybe some of that folky kind of natural kind of elements that are being fused in the record. And then you also have some more poetry by Maurice Maeterlinck that I mentioned earlier is also being used again on this. And again, Kurt Ballou doing some additional guitar. But yeah, that explosive, just, you thought we were fucking done? Sorry.
You fool.
You dumb idiot.
Which has this, we mentioned the bass kind of being a fundamental throughout the record and sticking out in certain points. I think the bass sticks out the most in this last part. It's very ratchety kind of sounding. It's very like clangy even.
Yeah.
Like it's almost on top of the mix right there to further emphasize that. And that last kind of pummel that kicks in for those 3 minutes is very Amun-Ra-esque, very like blending of influences.
So we finished the record, 46 minutes, 37 seconds. They did some more touring for this record. And I should say, it was their second US tour with label mates, a very new band that you might have heard of, Cult Leader, while they supported their debut EP, Nothing for Us Here, in 2014. This was through mid-July through early August. And there's a video, like a tour teaser for it that I saw. Now, I will also preface this by saying just a few months previously, or like a month before, Dylan and I believe, or I know I for sure was there, saw Cult Leader just before this tour. This was like their first fucking US tour. They played at Cafe Coco with Yautja, Cove, and Demeanor on May 5th, 2014.
Are you telling me that you don't remember the ride down in the van? You and Wyatt in the back.
I was.
Chaz driving, me sitting shotgun. We are blaring like death metal as loud as possible. Yeah. I will say this. Couple guys were green, really. Yeah. We get there, and I think that's where the illustrious quote that Swindle's about to say comes up.
Wasn't Justin Swindle? Cody
Yeah.
Cody told me that Justin Swindle was there.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, man. You look like Swindle from far away. That was a great night.
Yeah, I saw like it was just a lot of fun. It was I believe it was Cove's like release show for their 7-inch.
I remember Shibby from Yautja breaking a string and
Yes.
and Chaz having to go get his guitar in the car or something like that. I think. Could be wrong. I've been to a lot of shows at Cafe Coco, and that was one of them. But it was cool because that was literally Cult Leader's first fucking U.S. tour after, I don't know, I guess they just formed a band out of nowhere.
Yeah, they were never in any other.
No.
That was their first band.
That was it.
No other band existed.
They toured the U.S. with Cult Leader. Rad. Wish I had seen that. I don't think they came through our area, but they also did a Church of Rosh showcase in Ghent, in Belgium, which was like this huge sold out event. Featured Amon Ra, the Blackheart Rebellion, Oathbreaker, and a few other bands that are kind of related to that collective. There is some videos of that performance. I would definitely recommend checking that out. One of the other performances they did maybe a little bit after in 2015, Hellfest in France. So yeah, just cooking. They were touring, they were playing for sure. After this record, they would eventually release their third full-length record, Rhea, in 2016, which was released in September of that year. Another one for Deathwish. This, however, was produced by Jack Shirley, who we've covered on a previous episode, Punch, Deaf Heaven, the like. It was recorded also in the famous Atomic Garden studio, where a lot of those bands have recorded. There's a quote, I think this is the first Oathbreaker record that I was happy about. Other records I've done didn't meet the expectations I had for myself. This is the first time where I felt like the record sounded exactly what Oathbreaker wanted to sound like. The art was exactly how I wanted. That's Gilles. But yeah, so I, maybe with that context, the record we're talking about today, Eros and Anteros, is like more of like a transitional record, getting to what the ultimate goal was to sound. I like that record. It is definitely more spacious. I haven't listened to it in quite a while, but I remember liking it quite a bit. But I always go back to this record because I think it has all of the elements I like. It has like those post-metal elements. It has like the atmosphere and the texture, while also just having these like insane riffs and vocal stylings.
And maybe you guys are kind of in the same mindset that I am when it comes to a lot of like the post-metal stuff. Like I enjoy it. I know all three of us do. We all like stuff like that. We all listen to like different variations. I know Swindle's a big fan of like early ISIS stuff. I'm obviously a big like Neurosis fan and different things, but it seems like you can kind of, and this is just, it's not even a gripe, it's not even a criticism, but sometimes when bands get too into the post-metal side of things get a little too spread out. It feels like, where's the kind of direct message of whatever I'm listening to here? As long as it's interesting, like you want it to be that, right? Whereas like a record like this has all those elements and it's still very, very interesting, ties you in, keeps you wanting more. Whereas sometimes if it's a little too in one direction, you kind of lose the impact of what's going on.
By all means, like they should make the art that they want to make.
Correct.
It was just like, it didn't hit me as hard as like this record did, I guess.
And also to think about too, you were like 19 years old when this record came out.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
You were 19. So like you were still very young, like, and this left a lasting imprint on you of that time you found it and the time period you were in your life, which is a great thing that like, I think even people like us that do this shit and talk about stuff like this all the time, we kind of forget about like how important those early records are to us into our musical upbringing and what makes us as a musically interested person.
And, this was a very well-received album. I remember seeing a lot of the stuff where like people were definitely like praising what the band had come out with. I believe they toured, I think, like pretty well for this album after it came out. I think they stated that they were going to like start writing a new album in 2017. They were also very burnt out on fucking touring. I'm sure they were just out on the road all the time. So they kind of said like, all right, we need a little bit of a break. We need to just maybe come back to this. They even specifically said we're not like breaking up. We just need like a little breathing room. A little, it's not a hiatus. It's not a breakup. They played a handful of dates in December of 2017, and then their drummer Evo leaves the band for reasons that are unclear, personal health reasons, whatever they may be. He is actually replaced by Wim, who I mentioned earlier was in the band Rise and Fall. So there's that connection there. I believe Wim also plays in like a couple other bands, some of which I will be getting to later, but I think there's like a previous connection as well. But so there's another Belgian musician that they like have known for a while and respect. In 2019, they released the single Ease Me, which was for the Adult Swim Metal Swim 2 compilation. It was just kind of a one-off thing. They would later release an EP through Deathwish called Ease Me and 4 Interpretations in 2020, which features some kind of remixes of the single with Jezu, Wife, Chelsea Wolfe, and Michael A. Muller. Then they announced their first show in 2 years to be played at Arc Tan Ghent in August 2020. This festival, of course, was postponed to 2021 due to the pandemic. And then it was forced to postpone again into 2022. And so that festival in 2022 did occur. However, Oathbreaker did not perform at this festival, and they have not planned or announced anything since this. And, you know, members of this band continue to write and put out music in various other projects. I do often see when those projects come out, the Oathbreaker kind of like social media will release and say like, hey, you should check out Leonard's other band, or like so-and-so's doing this over here. But Oathbreaker has not like said that they've broken up. They just haven't done anything in a while. So I don't know if that means they'll return back to it. Doesn't really matter because we got some great records out of it. But with that said, I've talked a lot. We've talked a lot about this record and this band. How do you feel about this record? What do you love about it? What do you hate about it? Swindle, Dylan?
I like it a lot. I like the kind of post-metal and hardcore vibes. And I said it reminds me of like Fall era Converge. I also really love that album. So the things about this album that remind me of those albums, I also like a lot. I'd probably listen to this in like the darker parts of the year, like November, December, January, something like that. Make me feel bad.
Don't seek out shit that makes you feel better. Seek out shit that makes you feel exactly how you're feeling in that moment. That's what I always say. And I stick by that. If you're pissed, listen to pissed shit. If you're mad, or if you're sad, listen to sad shit. If you're happy, listen to sad shit. I really enjoyed this record. I'm glad the first time I got to listen to it, albeit many years later, was getting to really dissect it and really sit down with it. And the things that I wouldn't say there's a single thing that I dislike about the record in particular, just typical qualms that I have. Like, I really enjoy the second Abyss track over Clair Obscur when it comes to it. But that's just, typical gripes. I wouldn't pull that track from the record. I don't think it's an unneeded track. I think it ties the album together. It feels like a complete trip the entire time. I like all the post-metal aspects of it. I like the subtle hit vibes of kind of blackened aspects of it. I like the type of hardcore that these guys play. I like a little bit more of the noodly kind of hardcore with that. I like the weird just tail end of the album. There's a thrash track in it, like just kind of a curveball. Great album. I like the lyrical concept and theme of this album a lot too. Kind of like birth and death and ending and beginnings and all of that. Kind of the endless cycle that we're all in. I really enjoyed it a lot. I will probably end up seeking this out if I can find a copy.
Yeah, I don't know. I also kind of hopped on. I was like, oh, where can I get this? And
I think Deathwish may still have some.
We'll see. I would love to know because I don't own it. physical copy of this record, so that would definitely be one I will jump all over. As you kind of mentioned, I was like 19 when I heard this fucking record for the first time, and I was kind of getting into a lot of underground music at the lot of time. So, you know, there were definitely standout records from this year, this era, that like it just worked for me on so many levels, whether it be the album artwork, as I mentioned, the, you know, guitar work is like so unreal. As a guitar player myself, just hearing and being exposed to like a style or like you can fucking do that. That's like what you're doing. Like no one else is. I've never heard this before. That's crazy that you're playing like that. Just kind of like reorganizing my brain. I'm like, oh, all right. There's like just a different way to like approach this instrument, and really fill out like the sound. It sounds great. Yeah, I mean, I would recommend this record to literally anyone. I don't think there's a bad song per se on this album. I think there's a lot of variety. And yeah, just this is a band that I think Dylan, you mentioned it earlier again, was just like they had probably played a lot at this point. They figured it out. Like I think they truly figured it out on this one, and it just shows. It shows in the songwriting, it shows in the performance, and it shows in the recording. So Eros, Anteros, Oathbreaker, check this fucking record out. We've talked about the record. Now we've reached the point of the episode where we like to share some things we've been listening to, some recommendations. As I mentioned, kind of at the tail end, this band has members that still write music in several other bands. We kind of mentioned Amon-Ra and a few others, but I'm going to recommend one of my favorite records from last year, Predatory Void, 7 Keys to the Discomfort of Being, which is out on Century Media. That's their debut record. They just kind of came out of nowhere. Just here's the full length. I think they even premiered like live for the first time at Roadburn that year. Really cool. I think if you like Oathbreaker, you're going to like this band. There's a lot of atmosphere, but also just some of the fucking coolest riffs and vocals, elements of black metal, elements of sludge, elements of death metal. It features Leonard on guitar. So there's like still a lot of that really cool just approach to songwriting on this.
Can I bring up something about Leonard in particular? During COVID, I think Rig Rundowns did this, or Premier Guitar did a Rig Rundown with him. And I love the fact that he plays like Les Pauls. Something about that, like playing the different styles of music. You know, a lot of people are going to kind of lean towards kind of more modern instruments, or maybe something that's a little more nuanced, like a Strat or a Telecaster, you get a little bit more out of. But he's like, nah, just give me a 58 reissue Les Paul or a Silverburst Les Paul. I'm good. And like he plays it, and I think he plays them virtually in every band at this point in time. And it's like, oh yeah, he's still real old school. It's just like big heavy guitar plugged into a real loud amp, couple pedals. Which
it sounds like it.
It sounds, yeah. The guitar tone sounds like passive pickups, although I don't know that for sure. But I just wanted to say that it's like really admirable from my end.
Yeah. My second rec, my last rec, another Leonard project, actually another Leonard and Wim project, is Living Gate. They had put out an EP before that I was a fan of. They've just announced their debut full-length record, Suffer as One, Living Gate. This is going to be out on Relapse Records, and it's going to be dropping October 25th. As I mentioned, Deathless EP came out in like 2020, so I kind of like, oh, what's this going on? I believe that was also another Relapse release, but it features members of Oathbreaker, Leonard and Wim, and it also features members of Yob. We got Aaron from Yob on bass. You got also Levi or Levy from Hessian and a former member of Amon-Ra, so you have that connection there. But honestly, just like fun, really great death metal. You can't really go wrong. It's a single called Hunting Maggots. And yeah, the record's going to be coming soon. So check those out. Have fun with it.
At the time of recording, Chris Callahan from Cursed and Sect dropped, I think, his fifth song, maybe fourth song from his solo project Unwell. The song is called God of Gaps. It's Chris doing everything, I think. I think he plays guitar and drums and bass and obviously does vocals. It's pretty like simple punk rock, just a few chords, like 3-4 chords, something like that. Kind of lo-fi, political lyrics, which I love. And I love anytime Chris talks about or yells about politics because he's real mad about it. So check out that.
So I've got a couple things going on for this month, I've got a couple things going on for this week. One thing I wanted to bring up was everyone should go back. If you haven't checked out anything from Amon-Ra, check that stuff out, as we've mentioned it enough to kind of tie the whole episode together. But I want to bring up Amon-Ra's 2021 release through Relapse Records, Day Dorn. It's just a really great slab of post-metal. It's really fucking heavy. It's a longer album. Put it on, turn the fucking lights out, just delve into the fucking hole of our lives that we all are in. There's a great alternate mix of that album that came out about a year later as well. So you got kind of two variations of it to listen to.
I listened to that for the first time, like cleaning the house, and just was like, it's a great fucking record.
It's intense. That band's been intense for 20 plus years.
I don't know if I should do this and curse myself, but I hope to have seen Amon-Ra, Primitive Man, and Blackwater Holy Light by the time the next episode airs, or by the time this episode airs, rather. But I really want to see that show.
Yeah,
but it's like the middle of the fucking week. And
heavy. If you want to feel good about yourself, don't listen to it. But if you're really good with wallowing and like self-hate and vitriol, listen to it. So we're going to bring it up a little bit with the next couple things I've got. There is this mystery project that has been releasing tracks for the last month or so, and I don't know, they must have brought Big Pete back from the dead or something. Something's going on. I'm talking about Neon Nightmare and their album Faded Dream that'll be released on November 1st of this year. This is from what I've grasped, a bit of a tribute to Brooklyn's own Four Dicks, Typo Negative. They've released 2 tracks so far, Lost Silver and She's Drowning. Nobody knows anything about this band. Nobody knows who's in it. There's no idea.
No clue.
Could be a plethora of people, right? Could be Colin Young, could be Messiah Marcolone.
I think it's me.
From Candlemass. Could be you. I mean, could be the boy when he wakes up first thing in the morning. Who knows? All I know is that it feels like the best Typo tribute I've ever heard in my life. It feels like someone put the time and effort to create something that is very well done and has a lot of love and attention paid to it. And I can't wait to listen to this record in full. And my final pick for this week is it's fall. The leaves are starting to turn. What better band to fucking listen to than Typo Negative itself? I'm going to say Dead Again, which is probably my favorite Typo Negative record ever. It's the final release from the band. Has tracks September Sun, has tracks Prophets of Doom. The last track and closing track on the record, All Hell and Farewell to Britain, has one of the coolest fucking endings of a Typo Negative song I've ever heard. If you're not as familiar with that album, please listen to it.
All right, those are our recs for the week. Check them all out. Let us know what you think. You can follow us for any updates on this show at Riff Worship Pod, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We also have an email address, riffworshippod@gmail.com. You reach out to us there, ask us questions. Also have been getting some stuff sent to us. So if you're in a band even, I'll check out your stuff. So send it to the email.
Call us posers.
Call us posers. That was awesome. Call us posers,
man,
really.
It was expected.
That's awesome. Hey, that thing you dedicated your whole life to, you fucking poser. That was beautiful. We have playlists, official playlists that can be found in the descriptions below. Riffs on repeat, hits from the crypt. Wherever you are streaming music, you can find some new stuff that is always coming out there. Speaking of new stuff, Dylan also does reviews from time to time. Reviews from the Dillbozer's Den. If you're looking to check out some new releases, Dylan is also he loves new music. So check out his reviews, see what the bold bald dome thinks. But for myself, for Swindle, for Dylan, we'll be back next week with something else, I guess. We'll see you next time. Bye.